Greetings, chess friends. We are here with round number 4 in the 2024 Menorca Open, playing my opponent from Mexico, my neighbor, essentially. I am here in Texas. So let's see. We started off with this typical Queen's Gambit declined, Knight c3, opening up many possibilities. Black has many moves here. She chooses bishop to b4. Now, I did not see this in the database for her. However, I did actually prepare a little bit for this for some other players. So, was ready with queen a4. That attacks bishop and check. The only move, knight c6. And this move, a3. Actually, kind of a topical move. I'm not, of course, at the cutting edge here, but the interesting variations come with capture, which she did, and then knight e4. And actually, white just goes on to sacrifice the c3 pawn. So really interesting, some high-level games. She did capture and bishop d7, which really, after captures, notice the queen guarding d4, so there's no knight takes d4. There's no real discovery threat, and a good move here, bishop g5. I had actually seen all of this in preparing, like I said, for different opponents, and this opening in general. Knight takes d4 and knight e5. None of these moves are very scary. So we played a few moves on, e3, then queen c2. That's kind of where the queen belongs. We don't want to tempt fate for too long with that bishop staring at our queen, but here we go, bishop h4 and knight a5. Actually, I thought I almost got a quick knockout in this game. I felt well prepared. One of the only games I was up on time out of the opening, and after c5, I played a little too quickly here on bishop h7 and knight e5. Threatening checkmate. Pretty serious. But actually, in hindsight, it would have been slightly more sneaky to play knight e5, because now we are threatening bishop h7, and it feels really good, and she would have to kind of be alert to that. You could see perhaps a move like rook c8 nearly losing. So yeah, bishop h7, white is really doing well. So but bishop h7 it is. Of course, the knight cannot take because bishop takes queen. So knight e5, threatening checkmate, and the fork, of course. Bishop e6, and bishop back to f5. So really a little back and forth, but it feels like this knight is great. This pin, very frustrating. And I think all this kind of got to her. White's king is never really in danger. We can always just quickly castle in one move. So queen e7, castles, rook a c8, pointing at our queen. And I was happy to make the best move here, bishop takes e6, kind of relieving the tension. It's always critical when you do that. I saw, of course, queen has to take. Obviously, f takes is a catastrophic blunder. That is check and picking up the queen. So only move is queen takes, and then queen a4. A really good move here, pestering kind of this loose knight. If knight back to c6, you can feel there's some danger. The a pawn is weak. Maybe bishop takes this knight first, and if queen takes here, you have knight d7. Looks to be winning a pawn, perhaps. So there were some interesting variations, but she played b6. Bishop takes, which gets an exclamation point. So I was pretty happy to see these captures were good moves, and honestly, this was probably the best game of the tournament. Round 4, the last win I get, and we go on a bit of a roller coaster after this. So here we go. Really interesting moment. G takes f6. If queen takes f6, I was preparing to play queen d7. And again, a really annoying move. Creeping in behind enemy lines, threatening the f7 pawn and a7 pawn. Notice you can't play like rook e7, for example, because the other rook is hanging. So this is really annoying, and this knight on e5 is the best piece on the board. So she opted for g takes, and as a kind of positional chess player, I love these situations where the pawns basically tell me that all the endgames are winning, and black has to go into a bit of desperation mode. I love the move knight d3 and really eyeing the f4 square, which just does it all. Probably should have played it here. I was a little scared and maybe seeing some ghosts. Knight f4, probably just queen, let's say f5 or g4, but I was even envisioning some real ghosts here, and rook takes as a potential move I looked at. So, but I played g3 saying there's no rush here, knight f4 coming, and the knight is just in a dream square there. I don't know why the exclamation point. I think everybody would put the knight there. That really keeps our king safe. It threatens the queen. It threatens the weak d5 pawn. And again, because these pawns are also shattered, I really was just saying to myself, just get to an endgame. If we just get to any endgame with equal pawns, black will really be in trouble. And here, queen d1. The chess.com engine really is saying queen takes a7. A brave move. I was terrified of moves like knight d2. And not only is the rook hanging, but knight f3 check. Look at this. Computer just ice cold. Doesn't even care about knight f3. No human would play this. King h1. Knight, this is discover check, and you're losing the game, right? No, white is winning. F3, capture, capture. Absolutely ridiculous. White is winning. So that is why they give me the queen d1 X. I thought this was a great move, not only stopping knight d2, but also eyeing moves like queen h5, just turning this around. I didn't believe in black's attack. Rook g5, kind of a defensive move. I think, again, h5, queen h5 was coming. Queen trade, happy to go to the endgame. Nope. Queen trade, happy to go. No. But that bought me a little bit of time, and rook ae1, just really pushing things back, solidifying all these points. I was looking at all the sacrifices, but nothing really was working for black. Everything seemed desperate because of these pawns. That's what makes it desperate. Otherwise, it's just a normal game. But that, I guess, coupled with the d5 pawn being very weak. h4. White is a pretty clear advantage. Again, because of that pawn structure. King h2, maybe a little overly safe. I have a tendency to do that, just be so cautious, but not allowing anything. This also introduces the move f3. We couldn't play f3, I don't think, maybe because here g3 potentially saying maybe even that is possible, but I felt king h2 was just a nice kind of tuck your king away move, f3 on tap. And after captures, I thought for a moment there, but just decided let's not rock the boat too much. Captures, king g8, and here I really understood there was some danger for black. f3, and saw this tactic. It's kind of rare to just end a game in a tactic, at the master level, but this one was abrupt. She played queen takes e3, and there's an immediate tactic. You see the bar climbing, which I had already spotted before f3 was played, was queen d1. A really nice move. Just keeping this regarded while skewering the queen and rook, which is now undefended on e8. So really nice. Basically, this could not be taken. She had to move the queen back. Let's just look for a second after, again, e6 is covered, so queen e7. Not so easy. I was probably going to take this, but actually there's some danger there. Engine maybe suggesting e4. Notice the knight could be a little loose. But capturing here is not as clean and fun as it looks. Notice there's super scary threat here. This knight is hanging. Of course, you cannot take the knight, you get checkmated. So it would have to go something like this, knight takes. Okay, actually looks pretty clean that white is winning. 2 pawns ahead. So interesting though, but she did play queen takes, and queen d1 is really a knockout. One last gasp here was queen d2 check, and taking a moment, I eventually played queen takes queen, knight takes rook is check, and just don't hang your rook here or play, let's say rook e1 and walk into a fork, but rook f2, and she just resigned here, down a rook. Just way too much. This pawn falling, the knight hanging. This was probably the nicest game I played. kind of interesting. I felt really this was the game where I had good understanding of the opening. I felt other games I was either surprised or just didn't know as much as my opponents most other games. But here it felt pretty good, and all the way kind of to here, I felt like I'd already seen this type of position or very similar, and then started to act on my own a little bit. Bishop h7, a little hasty, but still, this is white pushing good trades, good, well-timed trades, let's say. And really, the defining moment in the game, I think, was this one. G takes f6. So white still has work to do, but black really damages their structure in a game where trades are possible. It's easy to get to an endgame, perhaps take along the c file. The rooks could trade. So fearing any of that and fearing queen d7, she played g takes, and that kind of shaped the game here as black almost desperately attacking, even though material is equal. You can see as if one player wants to just trade, the other says no, because it's the structure. We know almost all end games are going to be losing for black. So that's the traditional thinking. Nowadays, the computers defend so well, but really it was a tactic that ended this game, queen d1, game over. So, okay, we're back to 2 out of 4 and going to be playing another strong player. The next game was absolutely complicated and heartbreaking, but I'll tell you the story here in the next video. Hope to see you there.